Alright, I recently graduated with Cordon Bleu about a year ago. I'm going to do a video on how to make a roux, and this is going to be the first part of my series of videos. I hope that y'all can comment and subscribe to my videos. I'll be doing lots of videos on cooking lessons, and hopefully you can watch and learn something. Alright, a roux is basically a mixture of fat and flour, and by definition it is equal parts by weight of fat and flour. So you can use any fat that you want. You can use vegetable oil. In this case I'm using butter. In culinary school they'll teach you to use clarified butter, which is where the milk solids are left out. Where all this white stuff is, that's the milk solids of the butter. But I'm not going to weigh my flour. I'm going to add it little by little, and when it becomes almost like a peanut butter consistency, you're going to quit adding flour and cook it for a few minutes to get the raw flour taste out of it. And you just want to add a little bit at a time, because roux will absorb equal parts of flour by weight. And once you get it all put together, you can use it to thicken as a thickening agent for soups and sauces, and it's a very good tool to have when you're cooking on a professional level, or even at your home. You can have a very good sauce to go along with a steak or with your chicken. And if you add too much flour, literally all you have to do is add a little more fat. And it's not going to be the end of the world if your consistency is too thick. All you got to do is add a little more fat to it, and it'll be thick. Alright, so I'm adding a little more flour because it's not quite thick enough yet. And we're going to stir it and see what happens with the flour that I just added to it. This is something that you want to add a little bit at a time, because you don't want to have to melt more butter just to add to it, just to fix it. So if you can get it right the first time, then you can add it to a sauce. Right now I have my brown stock that I bought. I bought it at the grocery store. I didn't make my own brown stock because buying the bones to make brown stock is kind of expensive for the home cook. Chicken stock is fairly cheap to do. If you ever buy a whole chicken, you can take that and cook the bones. And this is almost at the right consistency, just a little bit thicker, and it'll be good. But basically, you boil the bones for chicken stock. You want it for like about 6 hours or so, and you cook it in water with about 25% carrots and 25% celery and 50% onion. And whenever you add it to the water and you boil your bones with it, you get the collagen that comes out, and will eventually make what's called a stock, which is a very flavorful liquid. When you make your own stock, you have to boil it a little bit before you decide to use it, to reduce it a little bit to intensify the flavor. Right now I'm going to make basically what would be called a velouté in the French term. Right now that's the perfect consistency right here. That's about a peanut butter consistency. And you want to cook this for a few minutes to get that raw flour taste out of it. And this is going to be considered either, depending on how long you cook it, is the kind of roux it is. Right now it's what would you call a white roux, because it has just been formed. A blonde roux is cooked for about 5 minutes, and you want to constantly keep it moving, because it will burn on here if you don't. And you just keep moving it around, and when it gets almost a nutty aroma to it, you know that it's ready. And you can, at that point, you can take this roux right here and add a little bit at a time to your stock, and it'll thicken it up. And you want your stock to be at a what they call nappe consistency, which is where it coats the back of the spoon. You don't want it to be too thick, and you don't want it to be too thin. And from the velouté, you can make a whole bunch of sauces, and that'll be a future video I'll be doing, teaching y'all how to make different types of sauces with the base velouté, either chicken velouté or veal velouté. And I'm going to turn down the heat just a little bit. You want to do this over a little bit less than medium heat. And depending on your stove, some stoves cook a little hotter than others, and you got to figure out your stove. But generally, when you make stock, also you don't want to add any salt to the water when you're cooking your bones. Brown stock is made a little different than chicken stock. You don't brown the bones in chicken stock, and you do in brown stock. You would roast your bones before you would boil them in the water. And if you start with, you have to start with cold water when you're making stock, because if you start with hot water, all the collagen will not come out of the bones, and you won't have a very good full-bodied stock, is what you want. And this is almost getting to the point to being having a nutty aroma to it. And you want, if you don't cook it enough to start with, you get lumps in your velouté. And whenever you have the lumps in there, you're going to have to strain it, which I strain most all of my sauces, just because it makes a better consistency, and it's basically you won't have any chance of having any lumps or anything that you don't want in your sauce on your finished plate. And here we got the velouté. That's what the sauce is going. This is what the roux is going to look like, and you're going to take. We already have our roux, our stock boiling, and it's at a low boil. This I've already started boiling because you want your stock to be hot when you add your roux to it. You don't want to add regular flour to your stock, because if you do, you'll get clumps of flour that doesn't get wet. So you'll have dry flour get in your put it behind it. Don't want it off the heat a little bit. And then when you add it to here, just whisk, because you want to get any lumps that do form out right away. And see, as it changes a little bit of color. It went from a dark brown to almost a dark kind of light, but a lighter brown. And here it's starting to thicken up, as you can see. And you want it, once you add a little bit to it, just let it cook, let it boil a little bit, and cook it over medium heat, let it boil. And once you let it boil a little bit, it's going to also get some of that raw flavor of the flour out of there. And I'm going to see if it's going to coat the back of the spoon. I don't know if you can see that on the video, but right now it's almost coating the back of the spoon. You can see a little bit of the lumps of the flour that didn't quite get all the way out. And I'm going to strain this, and I'm going to show y'all what it'll look like. I'm going to add just a tad bit more roux to it, and it should be at the perfect consistency. And when you're making your sauces, you want to add just a little bit of roux at a time. Just because if you thicken it up, you can add more stock, but you're going to have to reduce that stock to get that flavor profile again. And you don't want to have to mess with all that. So just add a little bit at a time, check it for the consistency that you're looking for, and see how it coats the back of the spoon. And it literally just kind of sheets off of the spoon. Alright, this is the finished sauce. I've strained it already, and I've put it over in this bowl. And you can see the consistency here. It coats the back of the spoon. If I take my finger and I do like this right here, and it doesn't run together, that's a perfect consistency.